Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Pinterest, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. Tonight I'm excited to share with you some of my favorite books for upcoming events, seasons, things that you might be interested in. So I'm going to share a couple books, things that maybe you have heard before or maybe that would be new to you. So I hope you'll stick around for that. That's coming up in just a second. When you hear me talk about those books, or if you hear a resource or a video or something that I mention, I always have all of those things listed on a page on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. You can either click the video tab on my website, or wherever you're watching, listening, seeing this video podcast, wherever you're taking this information, there should be a link at the bottom of the caption to take you directly there. But especially because there are a bunch of books listed, you might want to check out that links page. Okay, that's coming up in just a second. A couple more quick things. So a couple housekeeping things. The first thing, a couple days ago on my Facebook page, I asked folks, because every once in a while people will email me and say, hey, do you have a pacing guide, or do you have a curriculum map or something that you use or have used in the past? I'm the only teacher in my district, and I really would love to have something to sort of start off of, even if that's not going to work exactly for me. It'd be nice to have know what other people are doing. And so I created a Google Drive that anybody can add to. And so if you feel like you have a pacing guide or a curriculum map or something that you've worked on or your school district uses, then you can share. If you'd be interested, just drop that in that Google Drive, because then a bunch of people can have access and see what other people are doing, see sort of how it works, and maybe maybe there's a curriculum guide committee in a school district. It'd be great to have. It'd be great to have those sort of a starting jumping off point just to see where other people are coming from. So if you're interested, check that out. That's on my Facebook page. I made a link to that, a Google Drive where you can share and maybe see what other people are doing if you're interested. Okay, also, I just had an amazing weekend where I was in Minneapolis sharing with the Minneapolis ORF chapter. And in a couple weeks, I'm going to be with the Berkshire Hudson Valley ORF chapter in upstate New York. If you're interested in that, if you're near the Albany area, we would love to have you. That's not this weekend, it's the weekend after. So I hope you'll come and join us. Check that out on my Facebook page or on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. On the About Me tab, you can find where all my upcoming workshops are. I hope you'll come and check that out. And last thing, if you are coming to ORF National Conference in Kansas City in just a couple weeks, I've started posting on my Facebook page all my favorite places to go. Yesterday I posted about some really awesome restaurants that are absolutely accessible from the conference center, that are either a quick walk or a quick Uber ride or a quick hop on the free trolley system to get to. So if you're interested, yesterday I talked just about food sort of in the local, close to the convention center area. Today I posted a little bit about some attractions. So if you're like, I'm going to get away from the conference for a couple hours, there's some really, really cool museums and attractions nearby. The American Jazz Museum is in Kansas City, and it is connected to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. You can get a ticket that'll get you into both. That's a really quick trip from the convention center. You could probably walk to the museum for the Steamboat Arabia, this other amazing, super cool museum, really close to downtown in the River Market. I also talk about a couple other amazing things you could do. The World War I Museum and Memorial, the only World War I museum in the country, is here, the official one. And so anyway, it's worth checking out. But I'm going to be posting things every day. So if you're coming to Kansas City for National Conference, or I don't know, you want to make a trip, you want to make a vacation, check that out. I'm adding things every day. Okay, so the books I want to share about, I want to share just some books that I'm planning on using in the coming months, and then maybe a couple little lesson ideas sprinkled in there too. I want to start out with a couple books about the Nutcracker and dance. And so the one book that inspired all of this that I was so excited about is this book. It's called Charlotte and the Nutcracker. This is by Charlotte Nebres, N-E-B-R-E-S. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you say that. Illustrations by Aaliyah Marley. This is just a really beautiful book. I learned about this because this last weekend, like I said, I was at the Minnesota Orph chapter, and one of the cool things that they did was they had a local bookseller, a bookstore, who specializes in books with protagonists that are African American, Native American. I mean, just some really, really cool independent books with a real focus on diversity, but also written by authors that are maybe not published by mainstream publishing houses, so sort of small publishing situations. And there are some really, really, really cool books. I got in touch with her several months ago. You can actually buy from her bookstore online. It's called Liberate Your Bookshelf. And I'll link that on the links page. I don't think I put that there already, but check out all the great books there. One of the ones that I found several months ago as I was looking, because I used a couple of those books in the session, one of the ones I found was this one, Charlotte and the Nutcracker. It's so cool. It's a true story. It says here in the Bible, the true story of a girl who made ballet history. And it is about the very first a black ballerina to play Marie in the New York City production of the Nutcracker. So it's really cool. Let me just show you a couple pages in here. It isn't quite Christmas, not yet, but Charlotte gets the best gift she can imagine, her first ballet class. Music, dancing, dreaming. Charlotte and her sister laugh, spin, and hop. Eventually, Charlotte grows strong enough to balance beside the bar. She stands tall, just like her teachers. They make Charlotte feel at home. "Hello, Shiny," they say. She stands even taller. After class, going to the ballet is a treat. On special days, the theater looks like church, and the audience feels like family. Charlotte perches on her velvety chair. There's the ballerina everyone's talking about. Her brown skin glows bright in the stage lamps. The ballerina looks like family. Charlotte can see her herself. She can see herself getting up on that stage too. Sorry, Charlotte can see herself. She could see herself getting up on that stage too. So then it goes on, talks about her training. She gets better and better every day. She learned about hard work. Almost there. Called to audition. And then she gets to play the part of Marie in the Nutcracker. And then it goes on. There's a lot more in the book talking about that, talking about rehearsals, talking about her preparing, talking about all the things that go into the production. It's just really cool, beautifully illustrated. Love that it talks about this little girl in the back. It shows her by Charlotte and Breeze. She's a pre-professional ballet dancer. She's the first black dancer to be cast as Marie, the young hero of Georges Blanchet's The Nutcracker in the New York City Ballet's world-famous production. And was in the 2018 holiday season. So, super cool book. It is actually published by it's by Random House Kids, but I found it through Liberate Your Bookshelf. And so you should check out the rest of their books. But this one made me think, oh man, what other books can I use to focus in on marginalized voices, and especially in dance and in ballet, and how can I show that to my students? So a couple other books that I've already talked before, I'm sure in other years, but haven't yet talked about this year. Let me pull out in just a second. Let me also say, I'll put this on my links page, but over the years, I've started collecting and making like lists of books. I don't know that you necessarily need to buy things from Amazon, because Amazon doesn't need our money. I mean, it's been sort of clear about that, they're doing just fine. They don't need necessarily any more money from any of us. But on Amazon, one of the great things you can do is you can make lists. And for me, it's like a Pinterest for stuff. Like I can make all these lists for things that I want to get, whether I buy them on Amazon or get them from my local bookstore or get them from the library or whatever. They're listed there on Amazon. And even if Amazon doesn't have copies of the book to sell to you, they still have a listing. So that's sort of nice that like I can make all these lists of all these books that I want to have, or that I do have, or that I think should be grouped together. And so I've made a bunch of lists that I can share with y'all. So there's a whole set of books that are just for the Nutcracker, books for There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly, books that are based around Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah, or I've got lists for lots of different things. On that movement list are these books that I want to share, but I've also linked them on the links page. I'll make sure that I put all my book lists there too if you're interested. This one, A Dance Like Starlight. I love this one. This one, So it says, little ballerinas have big dreams, dreams of pirouettes and grand jeté, dreams of attending the best ballet schools and of dancing, but in Harlem in the 1950s, dreams don't always come true. And this tells the story of the first African-American prima ballerina, Janet Collins. And so it goes through, the illustrations are really cool. The first page says, stars hardly shine in the New York City sky, with the factories spilling out pillars of smoke and streetlights spreading bright halos round their pin-top faces. It makes it hard to find a star. Even harder to make a wish. The one wish that if I could just breathe it out loud to the first star of night, I might be able to believe it true. Like, how cool is that writing? Oh my gosh. Every evening I search the sky while Mama unpins the extra wash she's taken on to make ends meet. From our rooftop I gaze at the city skyline and whisper my wish, even though there are no stars to be found, not a single one. Night after night after night. Goes on, talks about her life. It goes on, talks about ballet and how she started dancing. Really, really cool book. Really beautiful book. And it eventually goes into her story, her time at the Metropolitan Opera. It's just a really, really, really cool book. Fun to be able to talk about Janet Collins and give this sort of beautiful look at a kid who's like inspired by Janet Collins. It reminds me a lot of Charlotte the Nutcracker, like sort of in the themes that it brings up, but another great book to have to highlight another person. This is another great one, Dancing the Wings. This is by Debbie Allen, who is also an award-winning actress, director, choreographer, and producer. So just great perspective. This one's about a little girl who, again, is inspired to be a ballerina, inspired to dance. My mom calls me sassy because I like to put my hands on my hips and because I always have something to say. Well, if you had feet as big as mine, you'd understand why. It also goes through some of her struggles, learning to dance. Is she able to do it? She's taller than the other kids. She doesn't quite fit in. All the struggles she sort of has. Again, just bringing forward Black voices within the sphere of ballet. But it's a great one to have on the bookshelf, even if you don't get a chance to read it in class every year, or to have to have it on your bookshelf to show students, to pull out certain times a year, I think is great. I like putting all these books next to each other, so then when I'm talking about the Nutcracker, they also see these other books right there, and then I could bring them out for lessons, I can bring them out for sub-lessons or extra time or whatever, but it's just a great way to bring those voices to the conversation and show my students, like, yes, everyone can be a part of this and should be celebrated. Along the same lines, if not just Black ballerinas, but also other marginalized voices, there are a couple really great books about Maria Tallchief, who was America's first Native American prima ballerina. This one, which is Tallchief by Maria Tallchief with Rosemary Wells, illustrations by Gary Kelly. I'll tell you, I got it. I got it from a used book website, and I had not yet read it, but I was like, I gotta have this book. I got it, and it's not my favorite. I still like it. I still use it for things, but it's just a ton of words and not so many pictures, so it's a little bit harder to keep kids' attention because there's just so much text. But it's a great book to have, great to have for context, great to have to pull out a couple extra things, and for me, it was very educational. So it's a really great book to have. But if you're talking about books that are for kids, there are a couple other books that are like the little, I can't think of the name, like the Little Artists or Little something, that there's like an actual profile of Maria Tallchief. This one is also great. This is Baby Professor, their version of talking a little bit about her life. So this one is really interesting because it brings in, I mean, there's some that are just stock photos, but it does tell about her life. There are some actual photos from like her history and her experience as a ballerina. So I think this is a really cool book to have too. It also gives more context about famous Native Americans that kids might have heard the names of, but also just about Maria Tallchief's life in general. So if we're talking about books about Maria Tallchief, these are the two I have. My favorite of the two is this one, Maria Tallchief by Baby Professor. Those are all linked on the links page too. Okay, I don't see anyone with questions about any of the books so far, so I'm going to jump ahead to my last book that I'm going to share today. And this is a book that's not about the Nutcracker or about dance. It's sort of a left turn, but I was thinking, like, what books have I not shared about that I am planning on using this year that are about Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, that are upcoming stuff. And this is one that I found since last year around Thanksgiving time that I wanted to share. So if you're trying to think about Thanksgiving, or you're trying to pool resources now so you actually have them when November hits, this is a great one to think about. So this book is called Gobble, Gobble, Crash, A Barnyard Counting Dash. This is by, sorry, that's covered up there, by Julie Steigermeyer and illustrated by Valerie Gorbachev. And this one I linked in the links page too. This one I got used. It's a used book, but I think used books are great because a lot of the times if you get them from like a used book website or something, they may come like as a library discard, which would mean then you'd have like library binding. Usually they're a little sturdier, but I also like it because they're way less money than buying all the brand new books. So if it's an older book, I do not feel bad buying an older copy. But anyway, Gobble, Gobble, Crash. Let me read just a couple pages for you. Fireflies danced in the dark summer sky, and crickets in the garden played their music in reply. The farm was very quiet as the night replaced the day, while one lonely mare nibbled softly on some hay. 2 baby cows in the barn fell asleep to the lullaby of bullfrogs croaking low and deep. Settled in the barn with the spiders and a rat were 3 fuzzy kittens cozied close to Mama Cat. 4 woolly sheep in a corner of their pen lay a jumbled and a tumbled in a pile. And then, wow, what a sight! It was strange as strange could be when flapping wild turkeys flew above the apple tree. 5 white geese honked and startled, laughing hard. They shook and rolled with laughter in the middle of the yard. Gobble, gobble, crash! Turkeys smashed into the coop, where the chickens squawked and fluttered, a fluffy feathered group. Mama Hen grew angry, and she scolded loud and quick. Turkeys, can't you calm yourselves? Think of my 6 chicks! So it's just a fun story so far in that, like, oh, it's fun and calm and nice, and oh, it's a counting book. And then this crazy group of turkeys flies through and like causes an uproar. As I first started reading this book, my first inclination was, okay, this is the book I read before I do 5 fat turkeys sitting on a fence, or yeah, sitting on the fence. Or no, 5 fat turkeys are we. Confusing my pumpkins and my turkeys. Anyway, this is the book that I was thinking like, oh, this is a great precursor to 5 Fat Turkeys because, you know, they're up in the tree. This sort of talks about that. Oh, gosh, they just mentioned apple tree. Okay, this is perfect for, because we just sang apple tree. You know, so like I'm already thinking like, okay, this is a cool book. We can tie it in a lot of fun ways. Gobble, gobble, crash. Turkeys banged into the house and scared the living daylights out of Mrs. Maggie Mouse. Hey, you naughty turkeys, quit your flying in the night, scolded Mrs. Maggie Mouse, holding 7 babies tight. By the way, did they skip 6? I'm pretty sure they skipped 6. Oh, no, there were 6. Okay, just kidding. It was fine. Gobble, gobble, crash. Okay, so obviously, like, things don't progress so well, causing a huge ruckus. And then, where the story really takes on some interesting turn. What's all that gobbling? Cried the farmer in his bed. Not another turkey mess, Mrs. Farmer said. Farmer opened up the window, yelling to the crowd. I'm gonna have a turkey feast, Mr. Farmer vowed. The animals all gasped when they heard the farmer's scheme. We'll save you, turkeys, came the cry from the barnyard team. Farmer hurried down the stairs, switching on a light, prepared to stop those turkeys from a gobbling, crashing flight. But when Farmer turned the corner to the barnyard gate, all the animals were quiet. Had he gotten there too late? He thought he heard some shushes as he stepped behind the coop. But the turkeys all had vanished. Where was that noisy group? Gobble, gobble, shh! 10 baby robins slept soundly in their nest, while 9 pink pigs by their mama took a rest. 8 little goats were a-dozing side by side, as 7 tiny mice by their mommy softly sighed. And so it sort of counts back down. 6 chicks slept close together in a cage. Where were the other turkeys? You'll have to turn the page. And it's funny because you can see turkeys hidden from behind different things. And so then they're all sort of hidden. Things are quiet, great. Farmer was confused, looked around, and slowly said, "Well, maybe I was dreaming," and he went back up to bed. But when Farmer tried to fall asleep, he thought he heard a crash. A gobble, gobble, crash! Oh no, another barnyard bash. So this is like, okay, I already know, like, okay, I've got 5 connections to 5 different lessons. This is like perfect. This is going to be the last 5 minutes of one of my classes. And then the next class is going to lead in with, 5 fat turkeys or something else. Or remember last year when we did apple, I've already got like, 5 different ways I'm thinking in my head of like, how can I connect this to the next thing? And so it's sort of a fun book. I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to add like a musical element to that specifically, like, oh, I'm going to sing this line or I'm going to sing this thing. That's not my plan for this one. But it is great in the context of all the other books that I already know I'm going to share, which, by the way, I, of course, have a whole list of books for Thanksgiving. If you're interested, I'll put that on links page. But all the stuff in here really connects to so much else. And in my kinder and first grade, we do a lot of stuff with egg shakers. And so, throughout the fall, we do different songs, games, things with egg shakers. There's Lynn Kleiner's song called Sandy Sand, where we pretend like there's sand in the egg and we get it stuck all over ourselves. We have to shake it off. They love that. But the egg shaker is like a really fun, easy first instrument for a lot of kids because they can hold it. They like being able to do that. They like the different colors. You can use it for steady beat practice. You can, pretend there's a little something inside. I mean, like there's so many possibilities with the egg shaker. But one of my favorite things to do is to have them all hold an egg shaker and they'd be like, no, completely silent, we must be completely silent. How can you do? And then the egg shaker like doesn't really, it's not good because anytime you move it, it makes a sound. And so my thought is with this book, we can talk about how you got to be gobble, gobble, shh, or like while they've got the egg, gobble, gobble, crash. They could all do something like that where they slam the egg at the same time on their palm for the crash. And then oh gosh, it's so hard to keep these things quiet because it, legitimately actually is. So like we could talk about how you must be completely quiet or if you're moving very slowly. And this could be just a great connection because in kinder we talk a lot about like shouting voice, whisper voice, speaking voice. We could talk about whisper. We could have a whole lesson based around whisper voice, keeping the turkeys quiet. How would you move if you were a turkey? Trying to be very quiet. And so we could hold our eggs and try and move through the room very quietly. Kids are good at being loud, but they love like the challenge of you got to be quiet. So like there are so many fun things that you could pull from this. And I don't have the lesson completely fleshed out yet, but again, I wanted to talk about it now because if you get it now, if you start looking for the copy of this now, you'll have it by the time Thanksgiving rolls around. I think for me, this is not going to be in my like Thanksgiving week lessons. This is going to be like first week of November because it's not necessarily Thanksgiving themed, but this sets the stage for like, oh, the farmer's coming, and it's also, it talks in here about the first, it's the middle of the summer or whatever. But I think this would also be great to just like introduce the whole turkey, a whole barnyard sort of thing. It's perfect because my first graders are going to do a barnyard concert in the spring, so like this is another way we can connect to that. But there's just a lot you can do with the book, so I wanted to bring it out and share about it now. And how much fun to do it with egg shakers, and all the ways that you could introduce, bring an egg shaker into the lesson. This is a great tie-in for so many other things you might want to do if you want to do that. By the way, this last year I was buying, I don't even remember what, from West Music. I bought something and I was like, I almost hit the minimum to get free shipping. And I was like, I'm going to get one of those big eggs. Because I don't know if you've ever gone to like a national convention or state convention. They've got those like huge like shaker eggs, but like they're ginormous. And I just never bought one. So I was like, I'm going to buy it. Well, I got the wrong one because this is not the ginormous one. It is like, it's like maybe like a jumbo. But it's, if we're talking like actual eggs from the grocery store, but it is not. Anyway, I still want one of the really big ones. Maybe I'll get that. I'm going to the Iowa State Music Association conference in a couple weeks to present. Maybe I'll try and track it down at the West booth there. Anyway, I'm really excited about this lesson with the eggs. Maybe I'll get that big egg by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, and I'll bring that back and add that lesson back in. But any of the books, if you're interested in any of the books I talked about tonight, I'm going to put those on the links page so you can find the links to all those. Get them yourself, get them from your local library, get them from your independent bookseller or whatever. If you don't check out any other book that I talk about tonight, you should check out Gobble Gobble Crash, which I just read, or Charlotte and the Nutcracker. Again, this is way ahead of December, but it's a great one to start thinking about and get your copy now. I will put a link to Liberate Your Bookshelf if you want to buy from that great independent bookseller. You should go and support them. Anyway, I hope this gave you some ideas tonight, and I'll be back next week with some more lessons and ideas. I hope this also gives you a little bit of time to look at those book lists and check them out so you can load up your own book lists. Give those lists to your PTO. Give them to your librarian and say, hey, can we get any of these from nearby? Find those books because there are a lot of really, really cool ones out there. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night. I'll see you next week.